It's time we saw some elephant having fun in the water. They're one of the most enjoyable things to watch. One of the most envious things to watch. And sometimes one gets the feeling you just want to go in and join them. Hello, hornbills. They gave each other a fright when they each took off. Neither one was expecting the other. Mating monarchs. Uh-oh. They're not going to sit still. The female has to do all the work while he just hangs on. She's got the strength to fly carrying his weight. Squirrel, you really got to look left and right before you cross the road. This little child just dashes into the road. Lucky you saw it. Can't really do much about it this time of year. Squirrels only have one thing on their mind. That's nuts. Marula nuts. I inherited a squirrel once. Well, actually more like the other way around. The squirrel changed management. I became its new manager, its new government, or rather its new slave. He was quite a lonely little squirrel. His name was Fritz. He was the only squirrel on an island where there were no other squirrels, and the only reason why he was the only squirrel was because he came from the Chobe River. And I was on an island in the Okavango Delta, and I'd just taken over a camp and learnt that he and the sibling had arrived on the island and had been raised by the previous managers. Sibling had been eaten by the resident Janet. And he was quite a character. Hippo's been here. That's his pathway, just heading back to the dam. Yeah, baby Drongo. Have a peek at the dam, because we're going to come back to it and we make our way around from the other side. We're going to do Shibom Road. Maybe we'll just do a big figure 8 loop. Yep. Hello, Hippo. Don't you ever get friends in your dam, like rhinos and elephants and things? Maybe he's just too selfish, chases them away. We'll come around from the other side when the lighting is a bit better. Hello, Monty. How are you doing today? Monty's a rugby fan, and of course our national team are the Springboks. Monty says he misses the Springboks, and I guess he means both the rugby team and our national animal. Springbok, one of those strange names of an animal that has no English equivalent. And Springbok in English and in Afrikaans, but it is actually an Afrikaans name, Springbok, which actually means jumping buck or jumping antelope. That's a gazelle. And Monty is going to spend a long time looking for Springbok in the Kruger National Park. Hippo and old elephant tracks. Now, we don't have Springbok this far east. Springbok are large open plains gazelles, as are most of the gazelle species, and they occur in places like the Orange Free State, Kalahari, Namibia, the drier western regions of the country. Oh, that's a lot of fresh elephant tracks. Not a lot, just I reckon he's the two. Could be the same boy that went up towards Philemon's. Hippo's on top of the tracks. The hippo came back early in the morning. The millipede tracks on top of the elephant tracks. The millipedes would have been walking around early this morning when it was still a little bit damp. So it's probably the same tracks for the elephant that we saw going up onto the open area. There hasn't been very much wind today, so the tracks still look relatively fresh. Quite a lot of definition in the tracks. But there are all those little telltale signs on top of the elephant tracks that give us an indication that it's not as fresh as we would think. And sometimes it helps to know when all the other creatures move around. Times of the day when the doves walk around on the ground, because the doves have a very particular way of walking. They don't know how to walk in a straight line, and their tracks are very distinctive, and they will be on the ground early morning, late afternoon. Millipedes will be out early morning. This time of the afternoon that maybe antlions will start moving around. They make very specific trails in the sand. So it's not always just looking at the track and aging the track by how well defined it is or how much definition it has lost, but also the other tracks around it, and taking into account what you have seen or what you will see within the vicinity of tracks. For example, if the impala are moving around and you've got some very, very fresh tracks, you can maybe ascertain that the time that the impala walked over those tracks based on where you see them. Like here, fresh zebra track. We're going to check on Gowrie Main just for tracks there. And then head down Bum Road. So, chapter 2 of the squirrel named Fritz, who was an incredible little man. Quite normally, you're always going to get one human in a bunch of humans that's going to tease an animal. And it was quite clear that Fritz had been teased in his past. And he used to get irritated with people if he thought they were going to tease him, if they pointed a finger at him or did anything remotely similar to what had been done to him in the past, and he'd nip that finger. And I have to say, he never nipped me once. He did remind me to move faster with the marula nuts one day. But I don't think he'd ever eaten a marula nut. He'd never seen another squirrel getting into them. The island was well populated with marula trees, very, very large marula trees. In fact, I had a tree house that was about 30 feet up in one of those marula trees. A little platform I used to go and sit on. And I can remember the first time I got some marula nuts and I took them to where we chopped wood, the platform of bricks. And I started breaking them open with the bricks. So I didn't have the patience to sit there and pry open the eye of the nut. Do you have to spin across the road, lady? And, I think Lame Drive comes past. I might have to break it for the guest's sake. Oh, he has a kudu. Pause that thought. Just get a glimpse of her through the trees. But this is how most of the animals are escaping the heat at this time of the day. Perhaps I should go back a little bit. There's such a narrow gap. You can only see a little bit of her. Once she's in the shade, you can see how well camouflaged she is. You can't really make her out. You can make out a little bit of movement. But even without the camera, just looking in that direction, if she stands still, and that is actually their defense sometimes, to stand dead still. And if they do stand still, very, very hard to see them. I was moving my head to make eye contact with her, and so she looking at me. I wonder if she's not that family with the youngsters. Not part of that family. Well, let's leave her be. I'll drive off slowly. Maybe we'll see some others further up ahead. Very difficult to make her out in that bush. A European visitor up here. We should be going back to Europe soon. I think it's called the Eurasian now, the Eurasian roller. Or is it still the European roller? Oh, here's that squirrel again. And a mongoose. We've had an experience with this squirrel once before. We tailed him for a while. He has this habit of running towards me, threateningly. Leave my nuts alone. Gone off the road now, by the way. A small group of dwarf mongoose that we might see up ahead. But as you can see, not as colourful as the lilac-breasted roller. It has some lovely colour in its wings when it flies, but generally a pale blue. About to fly. This nutty squirrel went off in the bush here. He's going to be one of these trees. Right there, along the edge of the road, are a group of mongoose stretched out in the coolness of the shade, using the sand. Let's sneak into the shade as well, if we can. Oh. Seb, just further up there's one playing with the soft leaves of that wattle, and there's that one there. No, you've gone past it. That one. Rolling around on the soft leaves of the African wattle. Go on, play. Don't mind us. See the leaves shaking. I know it's doing the same thing deeper in. African wattle has to be the softest leaf that we have. And of course, it doesn't have any thorns, so it would make a great bedding composition. Boundless energy. Franklin's flown from far. Sometimes there's so much that happens you don't even know which one to look at first. And we've been looking at these ones close to us, and I've only noticed much further back there's actually a couple of them wrestling and rolling around in the sand. We'll leave them in peace. Excuse me, children, coming through. Voracious little appetites for insects, grubs, small reptiles and frogs, and even small birds, small snakes. I suppose they fall under reptiles. So the kudu interrupted me, or I interrupted myself with the kudu. I was telling him about Fritz. Fritz had never had any other squirrels, so I didn't know how to open marula nuts. Marula nuts used to go to waste on the island. I started smashing them open. I'll tell you something, from the first taste of marula nuts that one day, he used to pester me to open more. And if he wasn't around, he'd just hear the first crack of the brick when I was cracking a nut open, and he'd come running in. Now there were another two little residents that I got very close to. It was a pair of white-browed robin chats, also known as Hughlins robins. And I knew where they nested. They nested just off of the patio that we had as our dining room. Beautiful big patio laid out with Bulawayo slate, size of almost half a tennis court, slate that had been shipped in from Bulawayo by a little old lady from Pasadena. I know, it sounds unreal, but it's true. And the robins learned how to eat the marula nuts, the little crumbs that Fritz didn't lick up. The robins used to get between the bricks and things. And there were times when I was sitting there lost in my own world cracking marula nuts with two robins on one side of me and an impatient little squirrel sometimes getting underneath my hands. Well, many times I had to hold that brick in midair and while Fritz darted in. He's lucky he never darted in when I was on the downstroke. It would have been devastating. It would have given him a bit of a headache. I think he became addicted to the nuts as much as I became addicted to sitting there giving him the nuts and the robins. It was the same robins that used to come and call me if there was a cobra or a puff adder or another snake around camp. Okay. Maybe something's arrived at Treehouse Dam in our absence. Oh, terrapin's on his hippo again. Hello, Humgo. Humgo the hippo and his terrifically trained terrapins. Shall we move on? Oops, sorry. I did say something about Rebecca's Road and Zoe's Road, but now I can't help but visit various waterholes. Because I know if I do this every afternoon from waterhole to waterhole, I know that one of these afternoons we're going to have an elephant swimming in a dam or something special. Although perhaps needs to get a little bit drier. Speaking of dry, I'm getting dry. Buffalo tracks. Crocodile tracks. One of these, are these the ones that you and Patrick saw yesterday?
Once we saw we're going to Chilapa.
You see these tracks are right here on top of vehicle tracks. Half on top of and half off of. And gee, he's got big feet. You can just see the wrinkles in the feet. Can't really see where his toes are. But this has had a vehicle on top of it. It looks today, I mean it does look fresh. Very fresh. Try and get an idea here. Judging by where the sand has been moved from him, bringing the foot around. I didn't know any better. I'd say he's gone back to Chelapan. We'll soon see. Having said that, we'll now see him at Twin Dam. I'm ashamed to say I couldn't really make out which direction he's moving in. He or she. I have a habit of referring to the male in cases of uncertainty. We are going to go back towards Chelapan. We're first going to have a look here at Twin Dams. This little moment here, as we come around this corner, is always a special moment, because I can remember one of my first drives, if not my very first drive, 2 years ago in a couple of days. Saseka was down here. And I drove along, and it was the first leopard that I'd seen in a number of years. I remember saying, I think I was on this side of the dam as well, and I was saying, oh, there's a leopard. Barely a hint of excitement in my voice. I was trying to contain myself because I didn't know if it was protocol to be so excited verbally. But then I guess I'm never really that vocal. I tend to temper it because I don't want to frighten the animals away. Nothing, yeah, the geese are here. I see a goose with some goslings. Impala ram on the side of the wall. Impala, the other side of Baboon Pan. Oh, slender mongoose. Where is the squirrels with your road sense? There's definitely fresh crocodile tracks, and it looks like he's gone back towards Chelapan. I wish he'd make his way back to Gowrie Dam. Would be good. This is on his way there. Probably nocturnal wanderings of the crocodilian kind. Hello, Sandy. Should I say good morning, Sandy? Interesting question from Sandy regarding elephants. And Sandy wants to know if male elephant bulls, feel any pain when they're in must. Having read that Asian elephants have their temporal glands swell when they're in must, causing some pain, discomfort. I guess we call it both. Sandy, as far as I'm aware, yes, that is true with African elephants as well. Also, as far as I'm aware, that swelling puts pressure on the base of the tusks, where the tusks, not where the tusks enter the jaw, but right deep in the root of the tusks. Somehow, if you look at the elephant skull, that is where those two incisors, the tusks of an elephant, you can almost imagine it. And evidently that accounts for some of their erratic and somewhat aggressive behavior. Funny enough, a lot of people attribute it to the fact that they eat a lot of marula fruit. But as we've seen in the marula dung, so many of those fruits come out and are passed straight through the system that it's hardly the case. I've seen elephant bulls engaging in what we call displacement behavior or displacement aggression, digging their tusks into the ground while in must. And ordinarily all they would do really is just thrash a few trees around. There's an African hawkie, no? Is it? Isn't it? An eagle of sorts flying over Chelapan. Or Wahlbergs, maybe. Rhino tracks. Not very... Oh, they are quite fresh, actually. Maybe it is rhino here. They're on top of my tracks from this morning. Hello, Mr. Hornbill. I need to follow those tracks. I'm not seeing a rhino here at Chelapan. These tracks seem to go right past. But we are going to stop and just check on that reptile if he hasn't maybe come back again. Or where he's gone to. There are clearly tracks coming back this way. Doesn't look like he's here. Unless once again he's underneath the gardenia. That's what it is. Induna's gardenia. See if we can find this rhinoceros. These tracks seem quite fresh. Going straight past Chelapan along Twin Dams Road. Tracks of a large bull. So where did they go then? They were here a minute ago. I'm going to get mixed up with the tracks that I saw this morning from yesterday. And there isn't any mud here anymore. So I'm going to walk the track just at the dam at Chelapan. I'll just walk on it just to try and get an idea of which direction. You know, it might be at that other mud wallow on let's get off the road so I don't drive over the tracks too much. Animals can really what? No, he did come off the road and went into the grass. I'm now started getting not confused because there's a difference in age, but I then suddenly had those tracks from yesterday and it threw me off. But he would have gone through here, so he's gone over to Vulture's Nest, maybe making his way up to Buffelshoek Dam. If it is shorthorn, I think it could be. Right, let me put my earpiece back together, or back on the car. Ed, hello. Ed Daves. Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just trying to decide where to next. Rebecca's Road. Let's do that, since we were going to do that anyway earlier. I will get around to it. But hi Ed. Ed was wanting to know if animals really can smell water. Well, the straightforward and simple answer to that, Ed, yes, they can. One has to also remember that if I were to take a glass of water out of any one of these bodies of water and then take a glass of tap water, you would notice there's a very distinct difference in smell. A lot more organic matter in this water, a lot more life in this water, and the mud, decomposing vegetation, very strong smells coming from the water. But of course that's limited only to the direction of wind, being able to smell water downwind. Coming from upwind. One also has to remember that there are other signals that other cues rather, that will clue animals to the presence of water. And that is the very life that lives in, on and around the water. And I suppose one of those is things like fish eagle and Egyptian geese, blacksmith lapwings, birds that all have very loud calls. And in the case of the geese and the lapwings and plovers, and even the thickneys, the water thickneys, in the instance of those birds, they are very sensitive to predators and other creatures moving around near their nesting sites at the water, and they have very loud vocalizations when there is trouble that can be heard from quite a long distance away. Animals know that. I guess the loudest of all are some of the frogs at night, because the air is cooler, sound travels further. Another cue for animals as to where water is, listening to the likes of frogs. There are also animal pathways and hippo paths. Animals will be able to follow those to water. So it's not always a case of smelling water. Many ways to find it. I'll give you an example about birds calling. I have a few bird bars outside my door back home, and naturally they dry up when I'm not there. And one of the first things I do is I fill up my bird bars. I brush them out with all the mapani leaves and debris that is collected in them. Some of them are concave rocks. And sometimes the little blue waxbills are the most common visitors. And There are days when there's a constant flow of these little blue waxbills or cordon bleus. And very often, when the waxbills see me coming, they sit and wait at the bird bath until I bring the bucket of water. And they'll literally start bathing while I'm still pouring the water into the bird bath. But they make a very particular sound when they're at the water, a sound that they don't make when they're out here in the bush. And funnily enough, that attracts all the other small birds in the area, because they'll come in flying from 100, 200 yards away, knowing they're going to water, and chirping this very excited, we're going to bath chirp. And of course other birds hear it. And the more birds that collect around the bird bath, the more noise they make, the more excited chatter there is, and therefore the more birds hear it. And it just becomes a snowball effect where I have an incredible wave of birds coming in every now and then. I remember I was going to go the other way around because of the sun. Henry was saying that he went up to that lion kill, nothing there, there's only vultures on it. Henry, coming? You know which Singala it was that Bolala that got him to marry? Yeah, but you know which Singala it was?
It's like, I think that's like my boy, that's 3 more my boy.
3 Kahuma boys. Forgive me, but I didn't even know there were 3 Kahuma boys still. head on to Zoe's and then take a ride around to Sandy Patch and Impala Plains that way around. And then come and do the rest of Zoe's. There have been a lot of signs of elephants in the west. They can elude me for only so long. The red-crested korhaan. Thought it was a bit too big for a francolin, but it went rather deep into very long grass. You know how you've often asked, some of you have often asked about elephants lying down. Look here, this is an elephant bed. Almost even see the shape of an elephant lying down in the grass over here. It's hard to tell, I guess, in a two-dimensional view on TV, on a computer monitor. That's where 3D comes into effect. But this is against the termite mound. I've seen a lot of this in Botswana, especially in the soft sand of Botswana, where the elephant will leave a very distinctive print of its body. And it's shaped exactly like that. So that would have been an elephant. I don't know if you can tell. The head up on the top left of the flattened area. The body to the right. And not a very big elephant either. A young teenager. They've laid down for short periods in different places. They don't really lie down for very long, they can't. They do doze standing up every now and then. Hot days like today, likely to find a group of elephants standing under a very big tree, trunks totally relaxed, loose on the ground, ears just flapping gently, almost as an involuntary action, just cooling themselves down while they take a nap. That'll last for maybe 5 minutes. Then the head jerks up, the trunk becomes active, almost like it's autonomous. And off they go again. So it's very rare to see that, because it happens for such short periods of time. One of the reasons why we try and spend quite a lot of time with animals, hoping to see a variety of different behavior. Sorry, Dove. That doesn't sound like very correct English. A variety of different behavior. Behavioral traits, perhaps. sky's turning blue again. It's losing all that cloud as the day wears on. Draws to a close. Temperatures are not as high. The thermals start diminishing in their strength, I suppose. Hello, Warthog. Are you going to stay there for me, boy? No, I guess not. Eating marula fruits. Big warthog boar. And I just want to... He's not likely to come out again. I just want to collect a feather for my hat. Lilac-breasted roller's wing feather, one of the secondaries, and it has to go on the left side of the hatch. Yes, does that look good? Good enough? I think I've got several wingfuls of lilac-breasted roller feathers in one of my bird books. Yes, Seb, of course you can have one. For your hat, no doubt. There is a lilac. I wonder if it's his feather. You're missing a feather. You can't have it back. Flew away. Right. What's our next move? To continue with the plan, I guess. Let's go sandy patch around Impala Plains, Zoe's Road, back to Philemon's. Stick to the plan, Mark. Otherwise, how are the elephants going to know where they're going to find you, or you're going to find them? Sorry if I'm talking to myself. I will engage everybody else in conversation shortly. Now that looks like a bunch of fresh tracks crossing through. A few cars have driven over it. And that'll go through first to the power line and then through towards Impala Plains. was a nice big family group actually. Those tracks. It confuses a lot of people to use the term breeding herd. Some people have asked sometimes the difference between a normal herd and a breeding herd. I guess there isn't such thing as a normal herd. And any herd with females and youngsters is referred to as a breeding herd, but I prefer to look at it as though the individual family units, and it's only when you get several family units that join up together that you can consider it a breeding herd. But I also think it's just more personal and it's more appropriate to call them family units, family groups. But after all, that is what they are, and they're not breeding all the time. Semantics, I suppose. I'm not sure what I smelt there. Maybe it was water. It was a very grey drongo. So that's fresh and it's gone. Yes, Craig, I think I need a tracker. That elephant was a fresh, very fresh elephant track heading west toward the gate. I remind you, young man, we found Karula this morning. Flycatch. That's a little bit promising. That wasn't there this morning. Elephant. Maybe it was. Maybe it's the same place I went on the side of the road this morning to look at it. No, there's an elephant close by, definitely. Definitely. Of course, whether we find him or not, that's another story. But there are fresh tracks here too. So, yoo-hoo. Wana Tembo. Ni wapi sasa hivi? There's tracks on top of my tracks from this morning. Of course, that has been rather a large gap in time. So is here, and he could be a mile or two away by now. But they look a little fresher than that. It'd be nice to find some fresher dung. It will give me a better indication of age. Tortoise tracks. Been a number of tortoises out. We saw a few this morning on our way. Be high to try and reach the Good afternoon, Teresa. Good morning to you. Starting a work week in Virginia Beach. Teresa wants to know what a crocodile would do if it's encountered on land in between different water bodies. Would it lash out? Well, a pretty good chance it would, Teresa. Depends though, depends on what it would be avoided by most animals. The only animals that are likely to tamper with it or mess with it are hyena, lion, maybe leopard, young leopard. To clarify that. Young leopard, lion, hyena. They are the only animals that would really be bold enough to go up to a crocodile and do anything. Crocodiles are not very dangerous out of the water. You know, they can run, well, for one thing. They're actually quite fast. But they're not likely to run after prey. They're not likely to run after a human, for example. They're likely to run away, yes. You know, crocodiles have a unique feature that is very different to all the other lizards, I guess you could say. Four-legged reptiles. You know, a lizard's legs come out the side and the lizard's got to sort of walk. It's all got to do with the ilium and the ischium, the bones in the hip and the way that they're positioned. And the crocodile's is actually somewhat similar to that of a bird. But different in that most of the time a crocodile's feet or its legs are splayed out on either side of its body. But when a crocodile is walking out of the water and it is walking from one place to another, it's not walking like a lizard. It actually swings its legs, it rotates its hip joints and its shoulder joints around, and it lifts its body off of the ground, and it has a very tall gait and lifts its body off of the ground in ways that none of the other reptiles can do. Fresh zebra track. And some of the crocodiles, some of the crocodilians, should I say, are able to travel at exceptional speeds. I've seen our Nile crocodiles running back to the water when living in places where there is a very high population of them. And there were times when the crocs would come out of the water when lion made a buffalo kill close to the edge of the lakes. You get the crocs coming out of the water. Sometimes even a bit of a confrontation between lion and crocodile. I'm going to stop a sec, listen to the peace and quiet for a moment. I'll get back to crocodiles shortly. The Wahlberg's eagle hunting above this bowl of bushveld, dropping down into the, this has landed in a marula tree some distance away. Okay, let's head down towards Filament Cutline. Some crocodilians are able to gallop. And the way some of them run is that they bounce, they do a very stiff-legged bounce with their front legs while they're running with their back legs, thrashing with their tail. And they run with their back legs with the front part of their body in the air, and every now and then when it gets too heavy, it drops down and they push off with their front legs again. So there are different gaits that crocodiles can engage in out of the water that can get them away from potential danger. But they wouldn't really use that for hunting. Crocodiles will generally only strike from the water, out of the water, coming out of the water, rather than being able to strike. They can't really lunge at anything. But they're very defensive. They have a very deep-throated hiss in defense, and of course their tail is deadly. And they will use that tail. They'll thrash about with that tail, or threaten an aggressor with that tail in a very similar fashion that the monitor lizards do. Yeah, it would be very interesting, Teresa, to see a crocodile out of the water. I suspect, though, that this crocodile is using darkness, the cover of darkness, to move between different water holes. And my guess, again, would be that it is doing so shortly after darkness at night. Sorry, I thought I saw a steenbok. Could have been, but then when I looked back, it was gone. Maybe these elephants are painting their toenails green and hiding in the marula trees. You know, of course, that they paint their toenails red and hide in cherry trees. You didn't know that. Very common type of behavior. Woodpecker. Woody woodpecker. But it didn't stop for us to see it. It's still flying right up into the top of that knobthorn. Elephant tracks still on the road. Been walking in a line from Kala Plains, heading south all this way. Wonder. We'll just check Gary Main quickly. I mean, he was here fairly recently. I think if we had come around this way, would have seen it first. But yeah, he's been here and he's south. And no doubt we're going to find his track. You can see the big S shape in the road there, dragging some part of his anatomy. Maybe he's still on Gary Main. Maybe he's waiting for us. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Although one can never be too optimistic. This has one of those deja vu moments written all over it. Finding elephant tracks coming up to within 20 yards of Gary Main and then no tracks on Gary Main. Go figure. This track's crossing over here. Well, that wasn't very nice of you, Mr. Elephant. C'est la vie. We try again. Back to Philemon's cut line. And the question from Cracker of a question. A very difficult one. Not that it's difficult to answer, but it's difficult to think about. See, this morning we were with Karula and the cubs, and we spent actually, I'd say, some pretty good quality time with them. Walking along Triple M, heading west, and it was probably still about 300 meters away was the lion kill, where that buffalo had been killed. And Cracker was asking if she had ventured into the midst of those lions and the cubs were in danger, would I step in and shoo the lions away and protect the cubs? And that's the difficult part of the question. I really don't know what I would do until that moment arrived. My heart tells me I would intervene, and my head tells me that I must leave it alone and let it be. I would say that every day, somewhere in Kruger, a lion is killing a leopard cub. I'd say that there are that many leopards and that many cubs that it is possible that every day, I suppose 365 days, let's say at least once or twice a week, it's possible that it is happening. Nikki from Vuyatela was at Leopard Hills. A very shocking experience. They saw one of the leopards from that area, one of her cubs, had been killed by a big male. It was up in a tree, like a kill in a tree. I'm very lucky in that I haven't seen that yet. I don't want to see that. I don't want to be put in that position. Having said that, I do want to be there and I do want to see it because it's raw emotion. Well, not emotion. It's raw nature. It's what nature is, and sometimes it is necessary. It has repercussions down the line that might be beneficial to the environment. Who knows? It was hard enough seeing the Majingolans eating that Styx lioness near Twin Dams Road. The nearer thing. Aha. Poor Rhino. We know who they are. A place called Three in a Row Clearing. Not sure whether that's Biffles or Torchwood, but it's nowhere we can get to. Only thing that's been found this afternoon. We're going to make a detour past Kundam Treehouse again. Never know, things can change quickly enough. You know, I've been in situations where my brain tells me not to intervene. And sometimes I'm driven too much by my heart. And there have been times when I have let my brain be the dominant thought, or rather the dominant force governing my actions. The head. Knowing that it is nature, that I am here as an impartial observer as to the ways of the wild. But sometimes that's the heart can't bear it, and the heart takes over. Let's put it this way, it would be wrong to intervene, but it wouldn't be so wrong. Does that make any sense? Varying degrees of wrong. Is that a black crake? Unusual little bird. I didn't get to see it properly. But not much has changed here at Treehouse Dam. Goose and goslings still on the dam wall. Ephraim. Afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. No, he was here before. Thinking about it, there's a strong likelihood that I would interfere, that I would try and protect the cub somehow, as wrong as it may be. Excuse me, lizard. Spotted sandfelt lizard. One of these days, maybe early in the morning. I think it's coming up on the time now where the mornings are going to be getting a little bit chilly, especially when the dew is falling and it gets a bit damp, gets a little bit cool. And we might find some of these reptiles sunning themselves when we go out in the mornings on some of the mitre drains or termite mounds. This time of the day when they're nice and warm and very active, they disappear too quickly. I can hear oxpeckers. From came up from Elephant Skull, so we'll go back towards Chelapan. We should be able to make it to Buffelshoek Dam before dark. There are hippos tracks. Yes, it is. That's fresh. He's been here now. Just walked down through here now. Ephraim, come in. Did you see him, Bubu, there? Yeah, he's in Konzo's crossing Weaver's Nest near Chelapan Road. Because he was there about half an hour ago. Yeah, he's gone down towards Kundams Road. I'll check at Chelapan for you. Lots of hippos. Gari Dam. Excuse me, Dove. This is the same one I saw earlier today. Hello, Sandy. Sandy wants to know if we're too far away to see the Drakensberg Mountains. You mean, I'm guessing, Sandy, you're meaning too far away from a high point view spot. I'm hoping we can get somewhere like that by the time the sun goes down. Be able to do just that. Although we shouldn't really say Drakensberg Mountains because it's just superfluous. It's saying Drakensberg, it's like saying mountain. Dragon Mountain Mountains. Because Drakensberg is Dragon's Mountain, or Dragon Mountains. So directly translated, it's Dragon Mountains, Drakensberg Mountains. What is that called when a word is superfluous? But a lovely range of mountains they are, and we'll see if we can find your view of them, Sandy. Little grasshopper. Landed on my shoulder. Animals are here, I promise. They're just not on or near the road when we are. At wherever they are. Today. All about timing. Will change in the next few minutes. I've got a feeling. I wonder if this is a sign that weather's coming. Everything's hiding away. Well, there's definitely been a pressure change. Having just thought of it myself, I just equalized my ears. There's a vast difference between my inner ear pressure and the outer ambient pressure. So seems like a high pressure cell has come in. Might account for... Oh, there's a stick, I thought it was a snake. Might account for the scarcity of animals this afternoon. Nyala Road South we're on. We're going to go straight across to Nyala Road North and go up to Buffelshoek Dam. Excuse me, Franklin. And a squirrel. Excuse me, squirrel. Oh, hello children. Gosh, you get a fright. Something must have pushed them into this thick bush like that. Unless they're just moving up and down this drainage line, feeding on this lush vegetation. Parrots again in the distance. For some reason the parrots have been pretty quiet, but today I've heard several groups of parrots. Run into the grass. Franklin, really? You'd think they'd learn after a while. Call it a bird break. Fresh buffalo dung. I've no doubt that there's buffalo around Buffelshoek Dam. So anticipation builds up as we approach Buffelshoek Dam. Must be something here. Has to be something here. Hippos. A hippo. Beautiful light. Greetings to Deborah, and thank you, Deborah, for information on the zebra, or should I say Debra for information on the zebra, or would it work to say Deborah sent me info on the zebra? No, zebra. Proof that it should be pronounced zebra, not zebra, because nobody's going to call themselves Debra. Back to you on that, because evidently there's some interesting information about why zebra are not domesticated, and I'll read through that when I get back to camp. Get back to you as soon as I can. And somebody wanted us to go past the giraffe carcass. I think we're done with that. I was there this morning. A couple of pictures on Facebook. It's not very different. I mean, all the skin and meat is gone. It's just the skeleton that's left. Most of it is still articulated. One leg has been pulled out, but it's pretty smelly. Not as bad as it was. There were a few vultures hanging around, but that's about it. Most of them have probably moved up to the buffalo carcass today. Let's move on. Go and find that spot. To see the Drakensberg. Drakensberger. But I think I have to show you this though. It is such a tranquil scene. There's barely a breath of wind. The water is like a mirror, and the reflections are quite incredible this time of the day. Who knows, we might see something down here. I'm hoping we can just somehow get level. About as level as can be. Just incredible colours, isn't it? There goes a water thickney. You see, not even the kingfishers, the pied kingfishers are buzzing around at the moment. Oh, well, you've got to be a dove to spoil the peace and quiet. Yeah. You see all those weaver nests hanging above the water there. Doubt whether they're still active. But it is awfully quiet in terms of, well, just everything. As though everything is waiting for something to happen. It must be because we used up all our excitement this morning. This is the kind of scene I can sit with all afternoon, from about this time onwards, or even from about 4 onwards, as this light gets more and more intense, with the sun going down. Here's a pied kingfisher. Wondered where you were. And another one. Can hear it. Can't see it yet. Behind us somewhere. I have a little dam on my eastern boundary at home. It's only about as big as this little patch of water we're seeing. It's the top end of the Viljoen Dam. And I can sometimes sit there the whole day. I'll take snacks and drinks and a book. Sometimes a pen and paper. And I can just sit the whole day. Doesn't have to be anything that happens, just really incredible to see the smaller things in life come and go. Every now and then one is rewarded with something very special. Bye everybody. Enjoy the peace. warthog dung, but the tracks are going back the other way. A lot of elephant here, collecting the ground, picking up sand, but not today. It's yesterday. Sun's still a little bit high to see the mountains. Need to give it another few minutes. Hello Peggy. The roads seem to be very rough. Will we be grading them shortly? Yes Peggy, in some places the roads have eroded quite badly. Some of the approaches to the dam, some areas where the road has saving spiders. Where the road has cut across a seep line and the topsoil is eroded away, and you get the seepage coming out on the higher ground, seeping over the road, you get the very bad gully erosion forming. Oh, the congregation of Francolins. Let's go see Cheetah Cut Line. Come back down to Drakensberg Drive, appropriately named because it has a view of the Drakensberg. But Peggy, it's not our duty, we don't have much say over what happens with the roads. That would be Voyatela's Rhino tracks heading up to Cheetah Cut Line, and an elephant at Gowrie Dam. If anyone's interested, there's an Endorf at Gowrie Dam. So to be relieved. We'll make our way there. Peggy, yes. Voyatela's going to be doing something about the roads at some point. Like yeah, the erosion is bad. Some of those very heavy rainfall. There's an elephant. We don't need to go to Gowrie Dam. One of those big bulls that's been avoiding me. I caught you, Mr. Tembo. He's huge. Look at him. He's got to be 30 feet high. Okay, I'm kidding. It's only about 12 feet at the shoulder. Do I know you? Got a hole in. Oh, he's a lovely bull. Where are you going? Why aren't you eating marula fruits? He's giving me away on the road. I think this is the boy we passed this morning, Seb.
Oh, yeah.
Down in the dip on our way to the wild dog that we couldn't find afterwards. Jambo Rafiki, Bwana Tembo. Also one in Dlorp to the cut line. I want to go further up. We're going to lose them in thicker bush. Maybe it's just going around this termite mound to come to this marula tree. That looks like what he's doing. Oh. Hello, my friends. Hello, you wonderful old man. Welcome to Wild Earth, everybody. Wild Earth Safari, bringing you Africa to the front of your car. Look how gentle he is, just strolling slowly. Tree to tree, picking up a fruit here and there. Magnificent bull. And stretch up. Look at that. Oh, he's lovely. He's a very big elephant in body. He might not have very large tusks, but he's a very big elephant, very tall, in his prime. Let us... Oh, it's getting a lot of cloud. We're going to lose that sunset. Let's follow him a little bit. He's not going to stay around for much longer. He's heading up to the northeastern corner of our area. About to cross over into Torchwood, actually. Oh. Seb asked me when we started today what the plan was, and I said elephant. I just wanted one elephant, and here he is. And well worth... Oh, we saw him the other day. There's two... Sorry, no, I'm not teasing you, I promise you. I'm just trying to get over this mitered rain. Sorry, Kwanatembo. Yes, I recognize that pattern in his left ear, and that little hole in his right ear. Picking clumps of grasses, chewing on the middle and dropping the tops and the bottoms. Oh, there's a giant jewel beetle flying overhead. Come here. 2 of them. Only I can get distracted by a giant jewel beetle in the middle of an elephant sighting. I'm going to move forward if you'll let me. He was on quarantine the other day. I seem to recall thinking that he didn't come across as being that big. What I'm going to do, we'll go past him, turn around and come back and face him. There, the mountains. We'll get to them. We've got about a couple of minutes to get to the mountain. Sorry, Deb. Elephant tracks here from an elephant. It's got feet this big. Doesn't need words. It really doesn't need words. Just sitting and enjoying. Maybe I can get out and hold that antenna down. step through there, Seb. While we're with this elephant, let's have a quick look at the sunset with the Drakensberg from up here. In winter we can see it a lot better, of course, with no leaves on the trees, but we've got a nice gap through the trees while we're with this Ellie. Stay with him until it's time to go home, if we can. You can see some part of the range of the Drakensberg. Not a particularly interesting part as far as looking like a dragon is concerned. That's more in the north. And then of course down in KwaZulu-Natal where some of the tallest peaks are. We might get a nice view of that northern part of the Drakensberg when we're heading back west along Buffelshoek Cut Line shortly. Hello, little jumper. Jumping spider on the dash that's been here through most of the drive. Hello, Sharon. Sharon's wondering if the tusks continue to grow, and if they do, can they get in so long, can they get in the way of everyday life? And yes, Sharon, very much so, in both accounts. They grow throughout an elephant's life. That's why we get some of those bulls, and we call it the tuskers. Great tuskers of Kruger have had some remarkable elephants. They can get very, very heavy and they can weigh an elephant down. And sometimes the elephant will break them. And I don't know whether sometimes they break them because they just get to be too much of a burden, or whether they break them because they get in the way and fighting and feeding, something can happen. Remember, there's 7 tons of elephant behind that tooth. If it has it in the fork of a tree and moves wrong, it can snap like a matchstick. Now there is a nerve that runs down for the first part of the tusk because it is a tooth. So if it breaks anywhere close to the lip, it can be quite painful for an elephant. Breaking the tip off the tusks, where it's just solid ivory, it wouldn't be painful. What it would do though is it would create an awkward jagged edge, and the elephant would take years of honing it down until it becomes a decent tool again. There's a nice view of part of the Dragon's Back. He's heading off into thicker bush. I'm going to leave him be. It's getting a little bit dark. I'm sure he's not going to enjoy me crashing through the bushes after him right now. Bye bye, my friend. He's taking a shortcut through to Buffels of Cutline, through to the fire break. While we still got a little bit of light and a little bit of time, let's get a nice view of that mountain from Buffels of Cutline. Wow. And just in case you didn't hear it, wow. Very faint. It is a little bit hazy in the west, but there's another view of the escarpment, and in a month or two's time we're going to be seeing the sun setting straight down Buffels of Cutline as it moves north. And for 2 years now I've been waiting to find the day that it sets directly down the road, and I always miss it. I think this time around I'm gonna try and keep closer track of the tracking of the sun. Coming very big in the road. Now to the left, where the mountain dips down very low, close to the line of bush, you can see the lowest point. That is a place called Blyde River Canyon, one of the largest green canyons in the world. I don't know whether that's a buffalo. But the furthest point, it's a bit dark to see now, but on that furthest ridge that we can see, where the road stretches. No, we're not looking at the road. There. Tiny black spot where the road ends. Can't zoom in closer than that, unfortunately, but something standing in the middle of the road on the top of that ridge. It looks like it could be a buffalo. Might still be there when we get there, if we get that far. Whee! Roller coaster. Hello, Peggy. Again? Peggy wants to know why we don't see any big tusked elephants here. Any of the big tuskers. They tend to stick to the more remoter regions of the Kruger. Actually, I didn't have my camera with me at the time. I don't know why I didn't, but when I went home, I think it was in the bag and I just couldn't get it out fast enough. But when I went home, I found one of the big tuskers now. It was just near my gate. I managed to get a photo of it on my phone. Hooray for technology. He was huge. He was a one-tusked bull and he had a collar on. So I need to get back onto the website to try and figure out who he was. But I think this is a little bit too close to the edge of the reserve, a little bit too much human activity here for those big tuskers. Those old men like to have quiet time. East of where I am in the Timbavati is some vast Mopani veld. And I've stood on koppies and looked out over that part of the Kruger and I've seen some huge tuskers up there. And that's the closest I've seen them to the private reserves. We used to have, I remember back in the day, back in the 80s, we used to have a big tusker on the Sabi River. His name was Mantleve, the one with the ears. And Mantleve had such big tusks at the time of his death, he died of old age, that they rested on the ground. I mean, he didn't even have to put his head down. Just standing normally, his tusks touched the ground. And to walk, he'd have to lift his head up. There's a big snake track just gone by. And when he was getting old and losing condition and getting a lot weaker, he would actually have to sway while he was getting ready to walk. I mean, he would have to literally get momentum and then lift his head and then put his tusk down again. It was almost a laborious way of walking. You could see how heavy those tusks were and how much they kind of slowed him down. I had some incredible moments with that elephant, and that was at a lodge here in the Sabi Sand. I think the one other thing, just thinking about it, I think it's likely that these big tuskers do tend to stick to the main rivers and venture into the Mopani woodland from there, or as it is in the south, the roundleaf teak like we have next to me here. Elephant bull. Do join us again tomorrow. From all the crew, good night and goodbye.